Hello again, this is Carol King, the founder of Custom Homebuilder Solutions, also known as CHS. This video is about the feature we have for importing a bunch of credit card charges or bank debits, etc. into an Excel spreadsheet and then bringing those into CHS and getting them posted as payables records or paid records that you've already paid. This is an update video from a video we had previously because our previous feature lets you import the things into Excel, but then you need to post them sort of one at a time. We have updated now so that once you import them, you can click a button to post all of the records that have been validated first into CHS Payable or as credit card charges. The main thing I think this is used for is when you have credit card charges. And I'm going to show you a tip here in a second from a user that has developed a way to get things into Excel from the bank. And I'd like to give you her information because she has volunteered to talk to anybody about that and what she has set up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here under Post New Payables and Charges and do Import from Excel. That screen opens and it's telling you all about the Excel stuff. What I'd like you to also know is that you can use the index up here, start typing the word import, and you'll get narrowed down to a feature that you can click on that will open the very same window that I just showed you. What I'm going to do is switch this to my older video that I had about how you set up your Excel worksheet, create blank worksheets, etc., and get things set up so that I don't have to just do that all again right now. So the window will look a little bit different in the video that I'm about to switch to, but everything will relate so that you can get some information about how to set up your Excel spreadsheets and so on. So off to the old video for just a few minutes and then I'll be back.
What it's done, first of all, is it's detected that I don't have any pending imported bills waiting to post. So it's first opened a window that's going to help you create a blank Excel worksheet that has the column titles that are required for you to be able to import the data into CHS from an Excel worksheet. So the first link up here says Important. Click this to see about column headings that are required on the Excel spreadsheet that you'll be using. Now, if any of my customers have been importing things from Excel to work on job budgets, etc., this will be somewhat familiar to you. So let's click this. So this kind of information here about alphanumeric fields, the title of the fields, whether it's numeric, whether it's a date, time type field, etc., is important to that person that might be capturing your information and dropping it into an Excel spreadsheet for you. So you can print this by finding the tools on your browser on Firefox. It's up here behind 3 bars. And if you do print, it'll show a page to print, just a web page for you, but that way you could print it out and have this if you like. It has some information about all of these fields. What I'd like you to notice is the field that's invoice underscore num, alphanumeric up to 15 characters, and that we have another link here that is telling you about alphanumeric columns. It turns out that if you're importing something, and I like to use the invoice number as an example, you might have some invoice numbers coming in or receipt numbers that are just numbers, some that are a mixture of text and numbers, characters, letters and numbers. And alphanumeric means a mixture of letters and numbers. It turns out that the Microsoft ODBC driver likes to do some thinking for us, and they will look at your Excel worksheet, and if most of the stuff in the column is numbers, they'll decide it's a numeric column. That means if you have anything in that column with letters, it's going to think those are blank. And it can be vice versa, that if you have so many of them that are characters, it's going to decide it's a text character column, and it could see a number as blank. It's just kind of weird, and there's a solution to that in that you should put a single apostrophe in front of any numbers that you put into an alphanumeric. That's especially important, but it's suggested that you do that in any alphanumeric column, that it automatically has an apostrophe in front so that Excel will not interpret that as a number, it will interpret it as a text. We'll take a further look at that, but that's very important for whoever's doing your data integration setup for you or trying to help you with that. I'll show you what happens when we don't have an apostrophe here in a second and that'll make more sense. So that's the couple of important things. So this window opens, and it's saying there's no pending records. This window won't open if you've already imported some records. It'll just go straight to the imported records that you've done. But this opens first just in case you're just getting started, or once again you want to create a blank Excel. So you won't have to create the column titles if you go ahead and click this button. And it's depending on how you have your Firefox or your other browser set up, what you might get right here. You might just get save file, or it might just automatically go to some download folder. We have some information about setting up so that it will let you have this open in our connection guide that you might want to look at. So it'll tell you more about what kind of windows will open when you're trying to get down to your own computer, because that's what this is going to do. It's going to go to my own computer. So if I click OK, I want it to open in Excel. Of course, Microsoft takes over and spreads amount columns, ones that are numeric, real wide and stuff, so you probably want to get this prepared. But first of all, it's saved in some big long name and a temporary thing that says read only. So let's just make one little change, like double clicking on that little line between the columns, and that makes it get smaller. Double click on that, so it'll size them down so you can see all of them. There's apparently another numeric one way over here, which is cost code, which makes it get really wide. So now the first thing you would like to do is do File, Save As, and I'm going to go to a folder that I've set up to hold my Excel worksheets for CHS, which is called CHS Payables Excel Worksheets. I already made one of these that I called Zero Template. So it'll be right up at the top, put a 0 in front, blank Excel for import CHS payables or something, whatever you like to call it, and whatever. I set up a folder called CHS Payables on my C drive, CHS Payables Excel Worksheets. You can call it whatever you like, of course. But save your blank template, and now you'll notice up here at the top it does not say read only anymore, but when it's first created like it is by Microsoft out there, it'll be read only. Now in the amount fields where I'm going to have dollar things, I'm going to format mine, and I'm just going to use the little tool that Excel has with a dollar sign right there. I clicked on the C for the top of the column so that it highlighted the whole column, and I'm just going to do a dollar sign right there, and I'll click on the D column, sales tax amount for a dollar sign. And now I'm going to click, there's 2 date fields in here, and I'm right clicking on the E, and then I'm doing format cells, and then I'm doing date, and then I want the 0314, the month, date, and year. So I want to do that so it'll format it for me when I'm typing data in or whatever it is. Format cells on the due date, month, date, year, and the rest of it is okay with me. So this is my blank one that's ready to go for me to just fill in stuff. So I'm going to close it, and I'm going to say yes, save that. And in my folder over here where I have that stuff stored in the Windows Explorer, you can see I have the 0 blank. So what you would do to start a new one, maybe you've done one, you've imported all those records, and I made a folder in mine called Posted to CHS, so I just go ahead and move the Excel worksheet on out of this up front one. I did one earlier today and put data in, which we're going to look at, that I just put today's date on and payables records, but you might copy this one, paste it, and then rename it. Rename by lightly clicking on it, and then that gets highlighted and you can rename the thing. But you use this as your master, so you copy from it, paste it, and name it something. Maybe it's the date and then underscore Home Depot or Discover Credit Card, or whatever it is that will help you know when you're going to import it, which one you're planning to import from.
Okay, we are back on the screen and into the new video about the new features for CHS for bringing all of the credit card charges in and then being able to click a button and post them all in one fell swoop instead of one at a time. But first, a new button that's here is something called Blue Ribbon Tip from User. And this user has set up some ways to get all of the information from the credit card company or the bank and get them into Excel. I would like to give you her information here, and what she says is, If you currently use or are interested in using an expense management application to manage credit card expenses among your employees, there are ways to customize output files from your existing application for direct upload into CHS with a click of a button. If you are interested in learning more about how to do this, please contact me at, and I'm going to blank this out for this public video, but this button will be here for CHS users and they will be able to see her contact information. And she says it can make your credit card expense process a lot less burdensome. So feel free to contact her. She is totally willing to help you out. So let's get started. I've changed the folders that I keep my Excel information a little bit. I have a folder that's previous worksheets that I've uploaded to CHS. And I've made my template one that's a blank one that we just went over in that older video. A file that starts with 3 zeros so it would stay at the top of my folder where I'm keeping these now vendor bills. Import. And I copied it and then pasted it, and then I changed the name to a blank one to 2021-11-19, which is about when I'm doing this video. Discover charges. So I think it's a good idea to put the year first, month, and date, and then give it a title that it's Discover Charges, or something peculiar if you have several cards for different people in the field for Discover, then just do John, Dave, or whatever you need to do to make it clear to yourself which ones you're wanting to import. So name that blank one something. So I'm going to open mine, which I've already put some data into, and which Allie can help you get data in. If not, if you don't do that, you'll need to be typing in everything in these fields that you need. I'd like to look at a couple of things at the data that I have in here so far. First of all, in that old video, we were mentioning the invoice number field, and that if you have one that is just a number that looks like a number sitting over here, when it's imported, Excel is going to decide this one is blank because there's enough of these with letters and numbers that it has decided that it's an alphanumeric text, and this one is all numbers. So that you'll notice when we do it, that when we import it in, CHS will change the invoice number to none because it will see it as blank. So what you do is you take this and you put an apostrophe in front of it to avoid that. Now I'm not going to do that because I'm going to show you how it comes in wrong. So let's just do that real quickly before we take a look at everything else. Let's just go try to import this right now. So the first thing you do on this worksheet is you create the blank worksheet, and that's what we've already gone over. But then you do import from Excel if you have an Excel spreadsheet ready. So let's do that. And you'll see that there's information that you should make absolutely sure that no other users are using this feature right now, because what it's doing is using a temporary table and everybody would be using the same temporary table. And you don't want somebody suddenly coming in and deleting yours while you're working on it and that kind of thing. So just be real sure about that, because this is the very same table here where you'll import stuff in, sitting and ready to be posted to CHS. So let's upload and import that spreadsheet that I just talked about. So here I am in my vendor bills import that I just showed you, and I'm going to double click on this one, and then I'm going to click the button Upload. It tells me 5 records have been imported. Now what's different from previously is it's telling you down here, click the Open Imported List button to edit, post, or delete the imported records. So that's a step 2 button here that's Open Imported List. So let's do that. You will not be using this screen actually, it's just here as a loading screen, so we need to move on to a nice list that you can use for things. What I'd like you to see is Big Buck Construction. If you go over here, invoice date, due date, invoice number is none. And that's because of what I just told you about how you need to put an apostrophe in front of that one in an alphanumeric field. So let's delete all these records and just start over. And let's get back to our Excel thing. And let's go ahead and put an apostrophe in front of this one right here. I know that's a pain, but it's just the way it is, how Excel behaves. So let's save this, file save. Let's just go ahead and minimize it here. Let's get back here. Let's close this, and let's go back to import from Excel so that it will open the first screen, knowing that we don't have any records. CHS goes out and checks to see if there's records in the temporary table, and if there's not, it will open this screen first. If there are records imported and you close it, CHS will open that screen we just saw that has things ready to go. So let's upload these just one more time. It will remember where I was a minute ago, so we can do this pretty quick. Upload, close. Let's go ahead and get on over to the screen that we'll be working on most of the time. Now notice we have an invoice number for Big Buck. There's some other things I'd like you to notice. On the Excel spreadsheet, there is not a column for your GL account for your chart of accounts. But what CHS is going to do as it brings it in, if you have a proper vendor and a proper job that CHS finds in its records, it will look first to the job to see if you've set up a default GL number to attach to the job to post various things to. And it will drop that in, and if you hover over it, you can see what it is. You can also see that there's a 0 for a cost code because we left that out of our Excel spreadsheet. I just wanted to point that out real quickly. You can see that there's not a GL number here because it doesn't find either the job XYZ or the vendor Z. If there's a vendor and not a job, CHS will look to the vendor for a default GL account that you set up for the vendor and supply it for you. Here's one here where the vendor was found, AT&T, and it found that the GL number attached to that vendor was telephone expense. The job is none, so it didn't look to a job, it just looked to the vendor to supply a default GL. Now you can click on these and edit. Let me just show you that real quick. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. But right here, if I didn't want this GL number, I could change the GL number with the drop down and then save it. We're not going to do that right now. That's how you get to the edit and doing various things with each one of these records. But what's really different now is that you can click this button and it says click to run validation of all records. That means CHS is going to run through these records to see if they are valid, and then it will put a green validated right here to say these can work to be posted all at once into CHS. So you need to validate them first. Previously you had to validate one at a time by clicking a validate button on each line. Now CHS will run out and it will validate. So let's do that. It asks if you're ready, are you sure, etc. So let it do its job for a minute. It says CHS has checked all imported records to see if they have valid data. If invalid data was found for a record, the record has been marked as record not valid. If CHS found something you should review, there will be a warning in red about it. To review and edit records marked as not valid or that have warnings in red, click on a record line to open its edit window. Then use the validate button on the edit window that opens. Using the validate button there means that you will receive messages about what needs to be changed. Actually, it's that you need to use the save button there. I need to change that message. But if I click OK, this screen is going to refresh, and you'll see there's validated here, validated here, validated here, but record not valid. And on this validated one, it's giving you a warning. Don't you maybe need a cost code? Because there is a job, but no cost code, so you should pay attention to the warnings under the validated ones. And this one is warning you that the job is closed, just so that as an accountant you pay attention to whether your general ledger account number is still being a work in progress one, and that maybe you need to change the default GL on the job to being a cost of sales. This one is already changed to that, so even though it's warning me it's closed, it's going to get posted to cost of sales, which is what we want to do with charges that come in after a job is closed. Now notice right here, I can click some radio buttons. If I click the validated, I will see just the validated records. These are the records that would get posted when I use the button to post validated records as paid by credit card. It would just be these validated ones. I can also click a radio button to just see the ones that are not valid, so that then I can start clicking on them to see what's the matter with them and what CHS tells me I need to do. Now if I click not validated, you won't find any because CHS ran through and did the validation on all of them. But if we're concerned about the records not valid, what we need to do is click on it. Notice that this says imported name, so that people put a name there of fast signs. So let's take a look and see what CHS tells us when we open it to edit and don't do anything yet. If we click save, it's going to tell us the vendor cannot be blank or Z. So let's see if we have one for fast signs. Try that, and let's see what it tells us now. The job code is either blank or is not a valid CHS job. So what we need here on the job is, let's just choose a random one I just used for junk stuff. Now what happened when I chose the job and fast sign? First of all, fast sign has a cost code attached to it as the vendor, which is superintendent signage, and we are fine with that. But if we don't want that, we could select another one. When I selected the job, it went out and looked for a markup percent for this cost code and for this job and dropped that in. And when the cost code was supplied, the cost type was supplied, and the GL account number is coming from the job, is that we want our job cost posted to the work in progress direct construction costs, and the department that's coming in is from the job that we set up and what department you attached it to. So it's super handy for you to get those defaults set up, the default GL number for a job and the default GL number for a vendor in case it's not related to a job, and the default departments for those. That way CHS can supply those for you and you don't have to be selecting them every time. Although, like I say, you can change those. Let's see if it's fine with it now when I click Save. And notice that it has changed to Validated up here. It likes it now because it has a good vendor, a good job, and that kind of thing. I'm going to close it. I'm not going to post it from here. So now that went away because I have Record Not Valid selected, and it refreshed when it opened. So let's see what's wrong with AT&T. So let's click Save. It says the GL date is outside of the current period that is set up in your company master and is not allowed. Click the Current Period button. Please enter a GL date that is within your current period. Notice that if I look at the current period that's set up on the company master by your controller, that the dates are all in the year 2021, and it is not allowing entries to be posted outside of that. So let's just go ahead and click today's date to make it happy about that, and let's do the due date the same. Now let's see if it saves it. The invoice number cannot be blank, none, or 0. So there was no invoice number on my Excel worksheet, so CHS supplied the word none. So a lot of times I use 6 digits for the date for something like an AT&T bill because they don't have any invoice number on them. So let's try that again. Let's save and see if we get another message. The job code is either blank or is not a valid job. Please select a valid job. And it has the word none in it. And if this is an overhead thing, we need it to just be H. And you can save time with all this. If on your Excel spreadsheet you would have put an H there, but there was no job on mine, so CHS provided a none. So now let's save that. The GL account cannot be blank, and the reason it got blank was because of changing jobs and various things. But if you'll remember, I believe it was $8,600 for telephone expense, so we can put that back in. The other way, let's just take it out. The other way you could get the GL number related to the vendor back in is to reselect AT&T, and notice how it's supplying it there. So let's click Save now and see if we can get that validated. So this gives you a few little tips about things that you probably want to have already in your Excel spreadsheet so you're not going through and needing to get these things validated like this. We'll come back to this part in a minute about just posting the one record. So now there's nothing under the record not valid, and if we click Validated, we'll see that there's 5 records that have been validated. If we click All, we're going to see the same records because they've all been validated. Now this is giving me a little warning about a cost code, and I do see that there's no cost code here for this particular record. So let's go over here and let's get a cost code on this thing. Now notice that if I reselect Big Buck, there is a default cost code for him, but the reason there wasn't one, a 0 was brought in, is because that's what we had on the worksheet, and so it didn't put it in. So now we'll just let it go to slab contract. It's just some miscellaneous thing. Let's save it. It's still in a validated state, and the reason it was before is because CHS will accept a 0 cost code in case you don't want this particular one to show up on job cost reports. If you have a 0, it will not show up on the subsidiary job cost reports. To mark something as a job cost for those reports, you use a cost code other than 0. So let's close that. Now what I'd like you to see, the other new thing, is that you can post validated records as paid by credit card. That means all of these can get posted at once instead of one at a time using the other screen. So let's try it. Post validated records. Now it's telling you about that general ledger and department that I've been going on about while I've been talking, and it's telling you please check everything out before you post, because the one thing that worries me as an accountant and a software developer is that by having this feature to post them all at once, to bring them in all at once, is that you may overlook getting the proper GL account in, etc. So I just would really like you to be careful about that. Now there's a little help button here if you haven't set up credit card accounts already in CHS that will tell you and give you the help about how you set up credit card accounts on your chart of accounts and a credit card vendor. We won't go into all of that. That's other videos. So let's select credit card vendor. Let's just do discover, and you'll notice it gives a GL account. One thing you'll notice is there's a link here to open the credit card ledger. Let's use that after we run and post those various entries here. So once you click this button, it is going to automatically post all of those to CHS as paid by the Discover 6 credit card. So let's do it. You wait a moment, and then it comes back and it says all validated temporary imported records have either been posted as paid by credit card or as unpaid payables, because there's another button there for unpaid payables if you've used that, based on your request. Any records that remain may need to be reviewed, validated, and or posted by clicking the record to open the window to edit, validate, or post the record. So let's do OK, close. Now this window hasn't closed, but you can see back here we have no more records in the list because it refreshed, because we have posted all of those as paid by credit card out into CHS and removed them from the temporary table. So let's just take a quick look at our credit card ledger and see if we see them there and if we're happy. And they will probably be at the bottom with the latest dates, because it's sorted by date. Now you can see that fast sign one, and it had a sales tax, so there were 2 records for that. The big buck one we were looking at, the AT&T one. Of course, you can delete these credit card charges if you need to, etc., based on following instructions for a credit card ledger. But that's a way you can quickly review to see if you got them all in, and to also look at the balance in the credit card payable account as of today or as of another day. So we're done with that. So let's see what happens if I accidentally click this again. No validated temporary imported records were found to post to payables. Good deal. We're happy about that. So what I'd like to do right now is close this, and then I'm going to open this again. And I want to show you how you'll pretty much know that you already posted something that you're bringing in. So let's import from that very same worksheet by accident. Upload them. Do step 2 to move to the list. And now let's do validate. Look how this says validated possible duplicate, validated possible duplicate, possible duplicate. Hopefully that's enough warning for you to realize that perhaps you have already posted these. Now if you've been using a credit card, you could always, instead of just posting as paid by credit card, select the credit card, look at the credit card ledger right here without clicking this button to post validated. You wouldn't want to click that, because it'll post these again. That's what I don't like about the big blanket upload and stuff. But I've done my best in here to let you know possible duplicate and let you know about it. In fact, if you did this one, and I did my fast signs, and I did save, get a job. Notice that it puts possible duplicate right here while I'm dealing with it also. And when I close them now, it says validated, it says possible duplicate. So I'm going to delete all of these. I don't want to post these, so you can delete all. So yes, let's delete all of those. Now I'm going to go remove the records that I posted into CHS so that I can post them again without all that duplicate stuff, and I'll be right back. So I did that, and I'm back. I'm going to import from Excel one more time, and import and upload to import those. So I'm going to show you that there is a button to post validated records as unpaid payables also, rather than by credit card, just in case you're wanting to. So let's run to validate these. And we'll just post the validated ones, but I'd like to get a cost code one on this, which we knew was 2105 from what we did a minute ago, and save. And this validated job closed is fine with me. So I'd like to post validated records as unpaid payables. And it's going to tell you about general ledger account numbers. Be sure to review things, post all validated, but important. Posting unpaid payables in a batch like this means that you will not receive alerts about vendor expirations, overages on jobs, etc. It is our suggestion to post unpaid records one at a time by clicking on the record to open its edit window, and then use the button there to open the window to add new bills. So actually I just like to show you that for a minute. Let's do this one not in a blanket fell swoop of posting, and we will use this open window to add new bills, which it's explaining here. We could also post this quickly as unpaid, just like CHS is going to do to the whole batch in a minute, or quickly post it as paid by credit card, just this entry. And if anything is needing to be changed or it's not valid, these buttons will be dim until you do save, find out what's not valid, and get that fixed. But notice if I do this one, you're getting all your warnings about the vendor that you can see when we go over accounts payable entries. It does have it all filled in for you. You might want to make some changes. But when you go to submit, it will let you know if it's over budget or not, and all of the tools for writing a comment about it, about uploading and attaching are here, just as if you were doing this bill from scratch. But you might want to bring them all into Excel to remind yourself, but then use that button so you don't miss all the warnings. Now I'm not going to submit this, and I'm going to let it get posted. And I'm going to say, no, don't delete the temporary record. I didn't post it. And I'm going to show you that you can post all just the validated ones in one fell swoop as an unpaid payable by clicking this button, and off it goes. And it's telling you it happened. Those have been posted as unpaid, and you can go to the unpaid window, etc., to see all those. Now notice how those 3 records disappeared because they have been posted to unpaid payables. And you can see those if you go open your unpaid payables window and delete or edit them there if you need to. This is just telling you how to open a credit card ledger by clicking this button. And if you need to post a record as paid from a cash account, not as unpaid, it is saying to click on the record, then use the button to open the Add New Bills window that I showed you doing just a second ago. And then you can, when you submit it over there, you can post it as paid. If you're just using this to bring in things to remind yourself to post, if you're using an Excel spreadsheet. I think that the Excel spreadsheet would be used for bringing in credit card charges because those are already paid. So, oh well, about the warnings. You can get the warnings about overages by using the estimated cost at completion worksheet, etc., to look at the overages that are occurring. I think that pretty well covers it and makes it so that you can probably get an idea of how to bring in all of the credit cards, especially with a tip from Allie that she's going to be so willing to help share with you about how to make it easier to bring those charges into an Excel spreadsheet that then can be imported into Excel. I hope this helps, and have a great day.